and today we're thrilled to introduce our very first guest, Aiswarya. Currently working as the B2B design lead with a fast-growing startup, Island. Having worked across 3 continents and with top-tier companies like Ford, Zomato, and Booking.com, Aiswarya brings a wealth of knowledge, spanning across a career of 10 years. At ownpath, she has been a teacher and mentored designers for more than a year. And believe me when I say this, she's much loved by her fellows. And now we hear from Aiswarya directly, sharing insights on articulating design decisions and trends in the industry.
I think there's two parts to this. I think there's actually making good design decisions followed by the articulation. And I think you need to do well in both to really become an impactful designer. Why do I think this is so important? I mean, let's just start with the fact that any design decision you make for, let's say, a new product or an existing product needs to eventually be built for it to have some impact in the world. And building is a cost that probably has to be balanced with engineering constraints, product constraints, and also with the kind of revenue and impact you're going to have in the market. So while sometimes a design decision might feel like, hey, it's fine, like we'll just do this small thing, that's great, but sometimes the more big, meaningful design decisions that you want to make come with a lot of other stakeholders involved, cost, and impact on the business and growth. So I think making good decisions first comes from not even being on a design platform. I think it comes from prioritizing with your stakeholders, deciding what jobs to be done, figuring out why these ones should come before other ones, so sequencing. And I think that alignment is already a big part of the articulation as well, which is let's figure out together as a team why we're doing what we're doing and in what order. And I think designers who can focus on that will already make the rest of the process easy for themselves, because big part of it is everyone going in the same direction together, right? And towards one goal together. So I think that's the first part. Then the second part is around the articulation. And I think there's different stakeholders that usually get involved at this time. So often if you're in a bigger design team, there's other designers you work with. And all the decisions you make can impact their work too. Sometimes you might have a design manager that wants to understand why you're doing something. So you should be able to say, okay, here are the user problems we have, here's some of the research, and here are the ways I'm thinking of solving it, and this is why. So first, I think sometimes you just need to convince other designers in your team. And then I think come product, operations, engineers. You're basically having to, at that point, say, I think we should solve it in this way, and here's how it's also going to help you. So as a designer, I think about the member experience or the user experience and how it will help our end users, and that's my job. But a product manager is thinking about business. An engineer is thinking about his on-call shift and how many tickets he or she is going to get on that shift next week, and the kind of backlog of like customer support tickets that they need to solve. Operations is thinking about, okay, how many manual hours do I need to put into X, Y, or Z task? And so the minute you can say, okay, here are the designs we're thinking of doing for these user jobs, and probably will reduce your on-call toil by quite a bit because we're solving the biggest tickets that customers are, sending to us, or we're automating some manual tasks from an operations perspective. So basically at that point, you're getting out of design and you're thinking about, okay, for the business and also for the team, what kind of impact and effort does it involve? Why should the team feel like these are meaningful things to solve? So I think those are a couple of examples of why making and then articulating those decisions starts becoming important. And the story you tell based on your audience, of course, should always be member first and user first, but they are also your users, they're also your end customers, other people on your teams. So you need to kind of balance both. As we have new tools coming into the market and a lot of discussion around like collapsing the talent stack, soon I think we'll see product managers doing a little more design, engineers doing more design and product decisions, and maybe designers doing more engineering too. And so Some of that articulation is your job, and some of it, if you really see yourself getting things done, is to also help those people articulate their decisions back to you. And yeah, maybe you'll start having other people in the team also, starting to do design work like meaningfully, and you end up really being the facilitator more and more. So yeah, I think it's time we start seeing it in that way too. One of the tools that our team uses is just training some AI assistants for our copy needs, especially when you're based in an area like Europe. You have different countries with different languages and different needs. All the designers in our team, we don't all speak Dutch, French, English, and Spanish, and those are the markets we cater to today. So a big part of what we're doing is basically saying, okay, here's the tone of voice and the kind of feeling we want to give to our end user as Alan as a product, and then using these tools to either get the right recommendations and even the translations so that we save a little bit of time downstream for the rest of the team that needs to build things. Another thing that we are doing as a team is trying to look at how do we monitor product quality within the team and the company such that we're able to audit all the different types of flows, combinations and permutations of what users can go through today, which is quite a manual effort. But in the future, how can we automate, taking screenshots, auditing the quality, getting automated agents to tell us, okay, these parts of the product really don't seem to be having high quality, these have low quality. We decide what those metrics and frameworks are. I can definitely see designers doing more product work, us saying, okay, here's the research we've done, here's the way the product looks today, here's where we think things are going. I think designers will also start doing more coding, especially for front-end prototypes. I think that's already happening. And I feel like really good product managers and engineers will also start doing wireframes and mockups in Figma. Like the minute they have a design system and they have AI helping them build rough flows, I mean, why not? Anyone can do any of this. And then maybe as designers, we end up being more gatekeepers or enablers for people to move fast on these types of things. Maybe we're going through a second shift. So I think when I first got out of college in 2013, design wasn't even a formal course or title, right? So a lot of us were visual designers, engineers, maybe coming from marketing, and then we all picked up design as this hybrid thing that we started doing. Now I think there's a lot of these very well laid out courses and experiences you can go through to get degrees or to actually get experience. But now it's already moving even further than that, which is some of the tools can already do some of this stuff for you. So now I think it's maybe more about the critical thinking that you bring to the table, which starts making you stand out from other people. And I think this is very interesting because the tools are at a point where the learn it yourself friction is becoming very low. A lot of the tools give you templates and libraries you can already start using. And I think they also go one step beyond, which is to tell you, here's something you've missed. Here's something you should have added or removed. They're able to converse with you and even give you feedback to kind of replace someone else that's giving you a design review or product review. I think if you're an engineer today that's looking to transition into product or design, you can already start playing around with a lot of these things on your own, getting help from other people in your team, participating more on Figma or on product requirements, and just starting to do more and not have to worry about does this kind of job even exist? And then do I need formal training for this? But more of okay, what are the questions I should be asking? What are the things I should be challenging? What is no one else thinking about that I can think about for the team? And then add value. And I think it's now more about how can I add value in the best ways, not always about my defined role. Be the person that's able to take a little bit of a step back and challenge whatever you're working on. Just asking the right questions is this the most important thing we should be doing right now? Why are we working on this? Why are we not working on something else? Is there an easy way to solve this problem without having to design something? Can we do it through surveys or customer support or even manual effort? So less about the process and the tools, but are we focusing on the right things right now? I think those are the types of questions I would love if she had asked those a little bit earlier in her career and built that muscle to challenge healthily, open those conversations, but also be willing to disagree and commit sometimes, because you can't just sit around and question everything all the time. You have to be like, okay, I'm convinced enough that this makes sense, or there's enough evidence and research to say we should work on this, or okay, maybe this is just not aligned with the way that the team wants to move today. I'm gonna still commit and let's see what we learn and get out of this. So I think that step back is one piece of advice I would give. And then the other one would be just go with the flow. Like, things change every day, business priorities, teams, people, everything changes all the time. And so keep building your craft and keep building your critical thinking skills, but also go with the flow and take all the people you meet and the situations you get into as just learning experiences to do something different next time. I think the first one probably came when I had to really figure out how I'm adding value to a business. And I think that was like my first job, where I was the first user researcher at Ford in the research team. They didn't have a user researcher at that time. They were just building new experimental things. And my job was to look at, okay, how do we bring passengers and drivers a better experience in the car when they're on a journey? And at that point, I think that was the first time I kind of realized it doesn't matter whether I'm doing a mock-up or a wireframe or user research, but if the team is currently here when it comes to understanding what people need, and they are building something that's here, but then they've only taken one path, how can we see if that's the right path to take? So then going from there, I had to step back and be like, okay, should we run interviews? Should we test this in the car? So I had to kind of put aside that framework of like, I'm here as a researcher, and instead be like, okay, now I maybe need to prototype this thing, or I just need to research this other hypothesis. And so I think that was the first learning experience where the job itself was kind of ambiguous, and it's like, okay, how do I add value to a business and a team so that they take this job that I'm trying to do seriously and it actually helps them? So I think that was the first maybe turning point. A second one, I think, is actually more related to skills. And I think this was at Zomato, where my UX and research process was fine, but I was still not at a point of being able to build a high quality finished product. And that was where my visual and UI skills were missing. So at that time, I remember my manager telling me that if you really want to be in this team and be self-sufficient and deliver something delightful at the end of the day, you need to also be good at the way things look and feel and the way it makes people enjoy or immerse themselves in the product, which at that time was food delivery. And so that's the going with the flow part, where I was like, okay, I can't just stop at trying to make something usable. I need to make something more delightful, because that's what brings people back and that's what helps them trust the product. And sometimes that idea of just because something's putting makeup on the pig is not always a bad thing. Sometimes the pig also requires makeup, and I think that's an idiom where they say that even if you put makeup on a pig is still a pig, right? So I think I used to be of that approach, where it's as long as it's really effective and efficient and helps the user complete their job, I'm a good designer. And that's when I learned that no, sometimes the makeup on this pig makes it stand out from a pig that doesn't have makeup. And when you have a market full of competitive products, you need to stand out also in a way and make people feel something. And that's where product quality and delight, I think, were something that I had to learn. I'm seeing the way tools are emerging. We are looking more at, okay, how do people think? How do they communicate? How do they get to the thing that we need to work on? And then the noise and the smaller details can wait. But can they get to that main pain point or main high impact whatever low effort, medium effort project that'll make a big difference for the business and the user. And then the tools come later. So I think that's kind of what I see myself seeking out in younger designers. I think the ownership initiative part is also a huge piece. It's not just about your thinking. It's like, do I think this is meaningful to solve? How am I gonna take the lead on this? What's the level of detail I'm gonna bring to the table based on who I'm talking to? And that's actually the kind of thinking and work ethic that I think helps good designers also get involved in strategy and company planning more and more. I think there's like a couple of pillars to what product quality is. First, I would say like it has to be functional. So high product quality is like a flow works consistently over time and it helps someone do what they're trying to do. So that's like functionality, performance, and then I think there's of course usability. So it has to be easy to use. You know, if you have those 5 employees, maybe you can do one action at a time. If you have thousands of employees, you need to do bulk actions. So that usability has to be flexible and scalable for your user base. And then finally, I think like aesthetics. So it has to feel like something you're proud to use, that you would evangelize to other people that are also accountants or HR managers in other companies.